Hey everyone, I'm Mark, and if you're picking up Flight Sim 2024 this holiday season, I'm going to share with you 5 things that you should definitely try no matter which platform you're on, be it PC, Xbox, or even PS5 now. I was lucky enough to get early access to the PS5 version, and we'll have future videos diving into PS5 specific features, but this one's for everyone, especially if this is your first time jumping into Flight Sim. Now, before trying any of the things that I'm going to suggest here, I'd really recommend spending some time with the in-game tutorials if you've never played Flight Sim before. There are a lot of concepts and basic things that you need to have a grasp on to have an enjoyable experience, and they do a pretty good job of getting you started, but as we go through the video, I'll also point you to a few of my own tutorials to complement that knowledge. One of the first things pretty much everyone wants to do in Flight Sim is to check out their home from above, and since the sim covers the entire planet with satellite imagery, it's bound to be there, but it may not look quite like what you expect. It really depends on where exactly you live. If you're near a major urban area where there's higher resolution satellite imagery or even photogrammetry data that they've incorporated into the sim, it'll definitely look a lot closer to what it should be. So the first thing you're going to need to set this up is to grab your coordinates from Google Maps in a browser or even from your phone. In either case, it's fairly easy to find. It's just either a right click away or as simple as dropping a pin and looking at the details for it. With that in hand, we can head over to Flight Sim and we're going to go into the free flight mode from the startup screen. And then we're going to find an airport on the world map that's close to where you want to fly over. It doesn't have to be right exactly next to it, but so long as it's not too far. And then from there, you can click on it and set it as your departure point. Then from there, to make it as easy as possible to find your waypoint, we can bring up the tablet. And if it's not already on it, you can bring up the route planner with the icon that's on the bottom left, and then pick the first option along the left side on top. The first step here is to pick our departure airport, and that's going to be the same one that we picked on the world map, and you can use the airport identifier to find it fairly easily, and that's going to be shown right at the top since you already selected it on the world map. Next, we need to enter our coordinates that we got from Google. So if we just scroll down a little bit to the en route section, we can click on the Add Waypoint button right here. In the dropdown that's appeared to the left, you're going to want to pick the coordinates option, and then we can plug in the coordinates that you took from Google Maps, and you really only need 2 digits of precision after the period. Then once you're done inputting that, make sure to press the Add button, and that'll add the waypoint to your flight plan. The last step is to make sure that the flight plan gets loaded automatically for you. So if we click on send right at the top here, and then we can pick send to avionics to load that up into the plane's GPS. I'd recommend the C-172 for this because it is one of the easiest planes to fly, and it'll probably be picked by default already. With all of that set though, we can start the flight, and that's going to put us on the runway with the engine already running, so it's going to be really quick to get going. Once you've loaded in, if you look over on the multi-function display, which is the screen that's over on the right, you're going to see that the flight plan got loaded up for you, and that's going to bring you straight to the coordinates that you put in. It'll probably be a little bit easier to see if you zoom in a little bit, but it's really just as simple as getting airborne and following the magenta line that you see all the way to your house. If you've never used a flight simulator before, maybe that flying part isn't quite so simple though, so I'll leave a link in the description to my guide to hand flying, which will get you up and running in 15 minutes with everything you need to get you there. Once you get close to the end of the magenta line, you should definitely be recognizing your neighborhood from above, and from there you can do a few low passes to check it all out, get a couple of nice screenshots, and so on. The next thing that I'd highly recommend is exploring some of the areas in the world that have the best satellite and photogrammetry data, because this is where the sim's visuals really shine. Not every location around the world has the same level of detail, mostly because the data has to be available for them to improve its looks, but there are some places that are definitely a notch above the rest. The first way to find some of these locations is to go into the activities from the main menu, and then from there, if you go into the discovery section, there'll be a lot of them listed there. But honestly, there's a detailed thread on the official forums that ranks all of the best looking areas around the globe, and that's going to give you way more options. It's definitely the best place to look if you want to find an area near where you live or somewhere that you visited recently. And my personal favorites are probably New York City and Brisbane, but I've done a ton of flights in the highest rated areas and they are all fantastic. You can use free flight mode to casually explore them just like we did on our first tip, and it's as simple as picking an airport in the general vicinity of the place you want to explore and cruise around on autopilot so that you can soak in the views. If you're not super familiar with how the autopilot on a plane like the C-172 works, because this is your first flight simulator, I've got another video there that can help you get up and running really quickly with it as well. The next fun thing to have a go at in Flight Sim is tackling some of the world's most famously difficult airports, which will test your skills no matter what you're flying. A lot of these approaches, like Lukla in Nepal or Megève and Courchevel in France, are meant to be flown with smaller general aviation planes, and those are the ones that I would focus on first. The easiest option to try these is with the landing challenges, since a lot of the more popular ones are available there, and once you've got more experience, you'll be able to create full flight plans to fly to any challenging airport that you want, like the one that you're seeing now in Aspen. Either way, I guarantee you're going to have some fun, but it can be challenging when you don't understand the basics of landing, but by now you've probably gotten the hint that I've got some videos that can help you fast track that as well. Probably the thing people want to try the most when it comes to flight simming is the airliners, from narrow bodies like the A320 and the 737 to the most legendary of them all, the 747. Flying them is a completely different experience to the small general aviation planes that we've been looking at so far, but learning to fly these jets is definitely not a walk in the park. They're packed with details and require a lot of preparation before you can even start a flight, but probably the easiest way to get a taste for it is with the tutorials and some of the landing challenges. The 737 tutorials give you a plane that's already configured for takeoff or the approach, so it makes it very easy to jump in, and the landing challenges with the 747 also work well enough as well, but it doesn't come fully configured for landing, so it can be tricky to get right. Free flight really is the best way to learn and fly airliners though, because they are complex machines even in flight sim, and you can't just jump in and expect to be able to fly it properly. There are tons of tutorials online, including on this channel, explaining how to start them with everything powered off, all the way through to your destination, and although there are some shortcuts to getting up to speed on them, the only way to really get a grasp on all of it is with lots of practice. We've already talked about exploring the best photogrammetry areas, but one of the coolest things you can do in Flight Sim is head out on a bush trip, which takes you out of the cities and into the backcountry, and this is where things can get challenging and push your flying skills. The great thing about a bush trip is you don't need a ton of prep work to fly into the wilderness. Just grab an appropriate plane like the X-Cub, the Savage Norden, or even the C-172, fill up the tanks, and then you're ready to go. Some of the best places to start are small airfields in British Columbia, Idaho, Alaska, or even the Alps, because they all have amazing satellite imagery and you'll run into some of the most stunning terrain. It's also a great way to practice hand flying and learn more skills as you go, and if you're looking for somewhere to land, all you've got to do is bring up the tablet to find the closest runway. Any magenta circle that you see on the map is a runway that you can land on, and if you want to know how to get there as quickly as possible, what you can do is click on the airport and then pick the direct to option. That'll show you the distance and heading that you need to fly, so you can either get there by leaving the map up and following it around, or alternatively you can match the heading that it says on your heading indicator, and this will work so long as there aren't any mountains in the way. If there was a mountain between you and the airport, you'll obviously either have to go around or above it to get there, and there is a map layer you can bring up to see the terrain around you. Green represents the ground level, and then the darker orange and then brown colors indicate higher elevation. So with that, you can figure out which valleys that you can go up to get there, and most importantly, which ones you definitely should not. The adventure doesn't end when you land either. You can switch into walk around mode and explore the area around you on foot, and with the environmental details that they've added, it honestly feels like an open world game. The world is more alive down here than it's ever been in a flight simulator, and if you pick the right spot, you might even run into some animals walking around too. The last thing you absolutely have to try is Flight Sim in VR, either on your PC with a headset like the Quest 3, or when it launches later next year on the PS5 with PSVR 2. This is as close as you can get to real flying without leaving your home, and it completely changes your experience from playing on a flat screen. It gives you a true sense of scale. Airliners feel massive, small planes feel a little bit too cozy for my liking, and it really feels like you should be able to reach out and touch the controls. Everything we looked at today should keep you busy for a while with Flight Sim, and if you found this useful, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more guides and tutorials to get you up and running fast, and let me know in the comments what you're planning to try first.